Here comes my bankroll. You know, life is not a matter of holding good cards, but of playing a poor hand well. Robert Louis Stevenson had it right, and when you go to Las Vegas, you might hit a downswing if you play with the best players that you've ever played with in your life. But we've been doing this for almost a year, studying to beat 1-2 no limit, and I'm not going to stop now, so we hit the books, we studied even harder, we practiced online, and this week, it's all about SPR. Let's turn this thing around. SugarHouse Casino. I was very excited to learn there is a poker room and a casino right in the heart of Philadelphia, one of my favorite cities in the Northeast and really in the whole U.S. A really nice casino as well, but we're not here for the ambiance. We're here to test our mettle and to apply what we've been studying, which is SPR, stack to pot ratio. That is the ratio of our chips in our stack to the size of the pot. Why is that important to know? Well, the easiest way to explain is once you get around double the size of the pot in your stack, you're kind of committing your stack on the next betting action. You're playing for stacks, so you want to be aware of that, and you also want to be aware of how many moves you have left before you get to that point. This helps immensely with post-flop planning. Starting pre-flop, you start to think about what my stack size will be like if I get raised, what my stack size will be like if I bet flop and get raised, what will my stack size be like if I bet flop, bet turn, etc. So many players look at the bet directly in front of them or being applied to them, and very few, or at least the ones that are winning, are looking at the size of their stack relative to the pot. So I am trying very hard to build that intuition and to be thinking about how my stack relates to the pot and planning my moves ahead so that I know what I'm going to be doing for the entire hand pre-flop. And that's what brings us to this hand, which is not a remarkable hand in any way, really, for an average player. But it shows you how I'm thinking about SPR in this hand and how I've come a long way since I've started studying poker seriously almost a year ago. Here I'm going to pick up one of my favorite hands, Ace-King suited. And I am in a middle position, late position kind of a situation, actually.
16.
The two blinds are almost immediately to my left. The button folds, and then we get the two blinds are going to call. And the important distinction is we're not just looking at the size of our stack relative to the pot, we're looking at effective stacks. My opponents have about 200, so we're playing 200 effective, and now with $50 in the pot, their SPRs are around 4. Now, with this flop, I'm going to bet to charge draws. I think they're going to be calling my bet with draws, flush draws as well as straight draws, as well as top pair type hands, and we're going to see if we can get some value from those kinds of hands. And of course we'll see two folds, but I bet $40, which then became almost a 2 SPR situation because we're talking about, yes, we're talking about betting 40, creating a pot of 90, and these guys with 200 effective stacks, well, they're going to basically have to be playing for stacks on the turn. So I was ready to go with that hand. That's SPR. Leaving SugarHouse up $82. It was a long, short night, 3 hours, but played a lot of hands. And a little up, a little down, ended the session up, back to the hotel, and then back to the grind tomorrow. How's that for elevator prowess? caveman coffee types were not in attendance when I showed up at 10:45. It was a loose kind of a game, and that was good because I was making some hands. So, ever cognizant of the size of effective stacks relative to the size of the pot, we had another winning session, profitable outcome. I'm happy with the way SPR is impacting my post-flop planning, giving me a little bit more of an edge. Well, we're in the city of brotherly love, walking the streets. I don't think anyone who lives here in Philly calls it the city of brotherly love, but that's what I'm going with since I'm from upstate New York. So we just left the casino, and we're up 212 for the trip. That's it for the poker, 2 3-hour sessions, in and out. The psychological impact of ending this downswing and getting a profit booked was really important to me, so I wasn't going to overstay my welcome, slip into my B game. And it was a lot of fun. Got to play poker last night with Nate from Red Chip, and also got to play with Mr. Don't and Nate today at the same table. So every poker vlog needs a travelogue, needs a sort of tourism part, and I guess what I'm going to do for that part here is go get hot dogs, because I am a hot dog fanatic. And this place, Destination Dogs, is the highlight of this trip. I mean, I've been looking forward to playing poker, but these hot dogs look insane. Words cannot describe how excited I am right now. Look at this. First we gotta go with dog quality. Dog quality is insane. Wow. This is definitely like a 12 napkin kind of a meal here. Wow. I'm gonna move to Philadelphia. Let's talk a second about these buns. I know this is supposed to be a poker vlog. I'm going deep into the buns. That was a bad choice of words. Like, it's super thick. Perfectly toasted. I'm beside myself. I'm sorry, guys. I want to talk about poker, but these hot dogs just have me enraptured right now. Alright, that truly was a destination dog. In any case, I should probably talk about a poker hand, right? Because this is a poker blog. So let's do that. Let's talk about a hand I played with Mr. Don't and another player. And this was funny because Mr. Don't sat down at my table and didn't introduce himself until a good hour and a half after he had observed me play. And one of the first things he said to me was, I read your blog, I watch your vlog, and you're always talking about being so aggressive, and you're the nittiest player I've ever seen. And he was right, because I was super knitting it up. I wasn't knitting it up, I just was super card dead. Like, I started taking notes on how card dead I was, because that was how bored I was. Like, I got 7 deuce offsuit, no joke, 3 times in one orbit. So, from outward appearances, I was playing super nitty, but in actuality, I was just super card dead. I get dealt ace-5 offsuit in the small blind. There's 2 limpers, or maybe 3 limpers, and I raise it up to 17. Now, this is not a hand that I would normally raise from the small blind, necessarily, but I always think about ace-5 offsuit because it's that hand that Ed Miller kind of plops into his 3-betting range pre-flop, because he likes to balance out his aces and his kings. And I think I'm getting that right. I don't know. When I talk about hands and talk about strategy and go over these things on the vlog here, it's not to give you guys strategy advice. I'm still learning the game. I'm a recreational player, serious rec, but I study, and I just don't play professionally, and I don't play all that often. So I'm never going to give you guys any sort of strategic advice. The opposite. I want you guys to give me strategic advice, and I'm sharing this hand with you so you can, in the comments, let me know what you think about how I played this, how I could have played it better. So anyway, I elect to open raise ace-5 offsuit to $17, and 2 of the limpers call, including the guy, Mr. Don't, who is sitting directly to my right on the button. So the flop comes ace, king, 5, and there's the ace, I believe the ace and the king of diamonds. So I have no diamonds. So I am leading out here for 30. Because I figure that, my thought process at least,
again, this might not be strategically sound, but my thought process was that what would happen was a lot of times someone would be calling that raise with a weaker ace comparatively to what's on the board, you know what I mean? Like ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, ace 9, something like that. So those hands could definitely call a bet for me. And at the same time, I want to bet because there's the flush draw on board, there's a straight draw on board. Queen jack is definitely a possibility. Queen jack suited, you know, something like that. 10-9 suited, you know, the gut shot and the flush draw. The guy immediately, not immediately to my left, but the player who is next to act puts out a raise to $65. So it's just a little over a min raise. And Mr. Don't folds. So at this point, I've got about $130 behind. We started with effective stacks with about 200. And I go ahead and think for a minute and ship it in. I feel like this raise represents a lot of draws. If he's got a worse ace, I got him beat. Insofar as he probably has a worse ace unless he has ace king, because I got the 2 pair. And if he does not, then he probably has a drawing hand, and putting pressure on him and shoving would be the only way to make him lay that down. And even if he does call, I'm happy with my equity in that situation. And aces, kings, those are out of the question, so I'm not worried about sets. Again, 5s, who cares? So I think that was a good shove. What do you guys think? It was really intense because he tanked for a good 2 minutes. And he was holding that call, and eventually he let it go. And he was obsessed with that hand. He was talking to his buddy about it the whole time. And finally, when I left and I cashed it out, he said, I gotta know. And I missed the opportunity to maybe charge him $5 or $10 to tell him. But I don't play her all that often, so I was just like, hey man, I had ace 5. And he's like, I thought you had a set. So I was at the bottom of my range in terms of what he thought I had. But he was still drawing, so I had the equity edge on him. So that was that interesting hand. Let me know what you think about the way I played it. Right now I gotta get in the car, go to New York.